you have to be a person of faith, right, to benefit from taking a seed that you could turn into food, like grind it up and make food out of it, or you can throw it in the ground and watch it disappear into the dirt.
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, you were saying earlier, like you have to do that first step, and I was like, well, kind of your first step is the opposite of doing something. You're just like throwing it away. You're like, surrendering it, just burying it. Like imagine if somehow somebody like didn't know that that's where food came from, and you just like took their dinner and just buried it in the ground. And he's like, "What are you doing? It's ruined now." It's like, no, you don't understand. We're gonna get more dinners from this.
Stay away from my steak. Welcome to Biblocus, where the Bible intersects with your life. I'm Timothy.
And I'm Caleb.
And you're listening to Bible Discussions, the forum where we explore biblical topics that are relevant to your life. Today we are continuing our series on the bonus sayings of the wise from the book of Proverbs. And this episode we're going to look at bonus saying number 3. So let's read that. It's Proverbs 24:27.
Put your outdoor work in order and get your fields ready. After that, build your house.
Whenever I hear this, I think I hear echoes of, you can't go out and play until you get your homework done. And I'm like, And if I'd if I'd have known about this, I could have turned it around to my mom, and said, no, I'm supposed to go outside and do stuff first before I do stuff inside the house.
Yeah, that would have backfired because she would have said, it says to do outdoor work, not play baseball with your friends. So sure, go trim the hedges.
All right. Well, you weren't my mom. How do you know how it would have worked out? But anyway, so
I'm pretty sure.
Well, so the more I read this, the more I like it. It's I think it's really good. But remember, the overall takeaway of the sayings of the wise
is to think long term.
Think long term, yeah. And
we spoiled it. We gave that overall takeaway before the bonus sayings.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Well, we didn't know we were going to. Well, nobody knew we were going to do the bonus sayings. It was a surprise.
Yeah.
So if you think about this, like, do your outdoor work, get all that in order, and then build your house. It's kind of like saying, think long term. Like if you don't put the seed in the ground, you're going to be pretty hungry, maybe dead.
By the time you're installing the last shingles on the roof. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Hey, we got the house done. We don't have any food. So, unfortunately, though, in thinking long term, if you think about this, time has passed this saying by.
Yeah.
I mean,
why would I waste time working on my garden when I can just buy a freezer and put the food in there and it'll keep for ages?
Yeah. I mean, the times have changed away from an lifestyle. So this saying is very like agrarian and very anachronic. This saying is very agrarian and very anachronistic for our time now. Consider how the times have changed in America, say since the 1800s. In the 1800s, according to some statistics I looked up, 90% of all Americans lived on family farms.
And that's pretty much true of every place in all of human history until the 1800s. When it started to change.
Well, I mean, in many places, just in the last couple decades, really, that like you say, like
in some
North
places,
and South Korea, and places.
Some places still, you go to like a third world country, and that'll still be the case.
Yeah,
it's the only way for everyone not to starve.
But by 1900, right, only 40% of the country lived on family farms, and now it's less than 2%.
Mm-hmm. So
a passage like this about, make sure you go out and get your crops sowed in the field, it's like, what? So
yeah,
it's interesting.
So we'll have to take the principle out of it and learn how to apply that.
Yeah, exactly.
Or we could become Luddites. That would also be an option.
Well, I mean, we do need to stay connected to nature.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we are, after all, natural beings. And nothing gets me more mad when people talk about...
But not until you finish watching this YouTube video. Just don't watch any other ones. Then go outside.
Well, nothing gets me more annoyed than when people talk about like human activity is some sort of aberration. It's like, oh well, building a petroleum refinery is not a natural thing, but an anthill is really cool, and you shouldn't stomp on them. And it's like, well, wait a second, like. I mean, the anthill is the ant equivalent of us building something like a hospital or a petroleum.
Yeah, natural is a very odd word if you think about it. I defy anyone to give a valid definition of that word. like, what are we talking about when we say that? Because it should mean like according to the nature of something. So if human nature is to be creative and entrepreneuring and adaptable, so it's like basically anything is natural.
So if you look at the natural priority of things, that's what this proverb is talking about, right? It says plant the fields first. Well, why?
Because you don't control the weather.
Yeah, you don't control the seasons.
And that is still true. We can barely even predict it.
Yeah. The crops are seasonal. They have to be planted at a certain time. I mean, you can go get a pack of seeds at the hardware store and read on there, like must put in the ground by March 31st, but after the last frost.
But it depends on your zone, like what zone you live in.
Your temperate
all
zone
this stuff
and all
to
that.
know. Yeah.
So there is a science behind all of this, but it's based on the natural order of things, and God's saying, don't fight the natural order of things. Like we've been talking about that a lot, right? It's like you can't go against God because God is the real God. That was the whole point of the Ten Commandments. That's why it starts, as we've recently talked about, with three different sayings about why God's the priority, and you can't change it, you can't make your own, and you can't speak for him.
Yeah, and a lot of the examples that we've talked about there, talking about God's natural law, we've been talking about the moral law. You can't go against it in terms of like, stealing something or whatever. It's always going to bend back on you.
Yeah.
This is much more practical and dealing with like the physical world.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the first principle. There's three principles we want to talk about from this in a naturalistic sense. And the first one is crops are seasonal and they have to be planted on schedule. And there's several passages you could read about this here. We've picked two. But in Genesis 8, verse 22, it says, as long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease. Now, this was right after the flood.
Yeah,
this was God's promise to Noah and mankind that this would always be the case. So again, it's the natural order of things, and you probably shouldn't fight it.
Yeah, it's not changing anytime soon. That's for sure.
Nope.
And nobody disagrees with that. Similarly, in Ecclesiastes 3, verses 1 and 2, it says, there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot. And he really got it from that song, I think.
Yeah. Well, the thing about that I thought was interesting. Those are the first two that are listed among many, many more. But the first things he mentions about things you just can't change are being born and dying, right? Okay, like everybody in the world's had a dash on their tombstone with the beginning date and the end date, right?
Yeah.
Like there's nobody has escaped that. And then the next thing he says is, oh, and also there's a time to plant and it's time to dig stuff up that you planted,
So Ben Franklin was wrong. There aren't just two certainties, death and taxes. There's also the seasons. Man,
poor old Ben.
What a fool.
Well, we'll have to let him know someday. But again, there's a natural order to things, and they're unalterable, and you're not going to be the first person that breaks the cycle.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, except me, I'm planning on living forever.
Yeah. Are you going to skip planting your crops while you build your house?
Yeah, I haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, I mean, we could have just as easily talked about things like mortgages and stuff like that. Like, you might want to get a job before you buy a house. So that you can pay it off.
That's probably the modern equivalent, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, but we're talking about natural things, so we won't mention mortgages, which are completely inhuman and unnatural. All right.
Well, wait a minute. What did we just say earlier?
Okay, so that was the first point was you can't change the natural order of things. All right. So the second thing that's cool about this saying is that once you've planted the stuff, only God can make it grow. So there's a
Mhm.
trust element to it, right? It's like that, well, go ahead and get it in the ground so God can do what he does. Like, but you've got to do your part, right?
Mhm.
You got to do that first. And so here's a couple cool passages. One I've shared before is one of my favorite Old Testament passages is Genesis 26:12. Isaac planted crops in that land and the same year reaped 100-fold because the Lord blessed him. And I just think that's an amazing passage to consider 100-fold, return in one growing season, 1 year is basically a 10,000% return. If you got that in the stock market, you'd be elated, right? So,
Yeah.
but the idea is that God is the one who brings that multiplier in because he's the one that makes plants grow
Mhm.
from seeds.
Yeah. And in Isaiah 30:23, here's another example of the same principle. He will also send you rain for the seed you sow in the ground, and the food that comes from the land will be rich and plentiful. In that day, your cattle will graze in broad meadows.
Yeah. So,
So it's kind of a promise to for it's a promise from God to be faithful on that end of making it grow.
mhm,
In that, and this is in a specific context, but
yeah. So
he's the only one who could choose to do it or not.
you have to be a person of faith, right, to benefit from taking a seed that you could turn into food, like grind it up and make food out of it, or you can throw it in the ground and watch it disappear into the dirt.
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, you were saying earlier, like you have to do that first step, and I was like, well, kind of your first step is the opposite of doing something. You're just like throwing it away. You're like
Oh yeah, yeah.
surrendering it,
Mhm.
uh, just burying it. Like imagine if somehow somebody like didn't know that that's where food came from, and you just like took their dinner and just buried it in the ground, and he's like, "What are you doing? It's ruined now." It's like, no, you don't understand. We're gonna get more dinners from this.
Stay away from my steak. Wait, there's
We're
not
gonna
a
grow
crop.
all kinds of plants, pizza plants. um, yeah, it reminds me of a line from a children's book, where that says, "You can count the seeds in a mango, but you can't count the mangoes in a seed."
Oh, cool.
It's like you don't know. Yeah, that could just keep. I mean, it will keep going on forever. Like
Yeah.
some seed has just kept going on forever. There's an
Yeah.
unbroken chain. If you're alive today, that means there's an unbroken chain all the way back to Adam and Eve of people
Mhm.
successfully reproducing for you to be alive.
Yeah.
Even though like your brother might not have any kids or whatever. Like for life to keep going, there's just an unbroken chain of prosperity somewhere that God is preserving.
Sure. Yeah. So again, that's the second point is there has to be a trust. There has to be a faith there to throw those seeds in the ground and expect that you're going to get 100-fold increase, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then the third point we want to make on the natural side of things is while you're waiting for the crops, you should be productive, right? That's when you're supposed to build your
Yeah.
house, right? That was the whole point was like, okay, so don't just throw them in the ground and go, God's got this. It's like you should still be, doing something in the
Yeah.
meantime, right? So, so one of my favorite passages, and we're going to see a very similar passage in another couple weeks to this, but in Proverbs 6, verses 6-8, it says, "Go to the ant, O sluggard, consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest." So the idea there is like, the ants are always working.
Yeah, there's not a season
Yeah.
where they're just idle.
Yeah. I mean, in the wintertime though, they're going to have their food stored up underground, and be okay when there's no food available.
Mm-hmm.
But they, are busy all the time. And so that's a lesson for us to look at that and say, okay, yeah, I got the seed in the ground, but there's more stuff I can be doing. I got to get this house ready. That could include your barn or whatever that you're going to be putting your harvest in, your pantry, whatever, where you're going to store stuff so that you have food over the winter. So there is a time to build a house, whether it's a storage shed or whatever. But yeah, but it's after you get the food, the seed in the ground, and then don't just be lazy. So that was hard. So I'm just gonna take the summer off.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking of like, it was just a few weeks ago, we spent a lot of time in one study on that guy, the parable about the rich man who has the abundant harvest. And then he's like, I'm just going to build more barns to keep it all
Yeah.
in. It's like, it almost sounds like these are juxtaposing each other. But the problem was, like, what did he say was the reason for that? So that he could prop his feet up for years and eat and drink and relax and be idle and not do anything with it. That was the point of it for him.
Well, he got even more than he anticipated. It was like, instead of 100-fold, he got,
Well, yeah, but so did
1,000-fold.
so did Isaac, and so could you, right? And the point here is, like, that isn't, like you were saying, if you got that return in the stock market, you'd be elated. Everybody always says, like, yeah, I'd never work again. This is pointing out that's the wrong approach.
Yes.
Now you could just choose what you were going to work at and do literally anything because you have a safety net, but you should not be idle.
Yeah.
And that was that guy. Like we have, and I think I brought this up in that study too. We have kind of this desire to get out from under the curse that by the sweat of your brow will you eat. That we have this desire not to be working. And even before the curse in the garden, Adam was given to tend the plants. It was a good thing. Like
right.
Some amount of work was a blessing. And we have this desire to avoid work and have everything easy. And that's not healthy. It's not right.
No, I mean, I think even in heaven we'll have things to do.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't want to be if all we're doing is sitting on a cloud playing a harp.
I don't want to listen to you play harp.
Well, look, if I have an eternity to figure it out, I'm going to get pretty good at it.
Because you did go outside and play instead of practicing your music.
Yeah.
As a kid. Okay. So this is interesting because as Christians, we're kind of in a similar dilemma. Jesus, in the book of John, Jesus says, unless a seed's planted in the ground and dies, right, it remains a seed.
Yeah.
But he has to go and die, and then he's going to rise again, and then he's going to go to new life, and then he's going to come back for us. Well,
and that's what we were talking about before, about being willing to give it up, to bury it, and pretty much kill it in a way.
So James addresses this issue. He's like, hey, we're still sitting around waiting for Jesus to come back.
Yeah.
So he says in James 5:7-9,
be patient then, brothers and sisters, until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, patiently waiting for the autumn and spring rains. You too, be patient and stand firm, because the Lord's coming is near. Don't grumble against one another, brothers and sisters, or you will be judged. The judge is standing at the door. So
this one is a little bit more theological, but it bases it on the natural order of things, and saying, that, hey, how a farmer handles the situation, right? He knows he's got stuff to do all year round, and he has to be patient and he has to stand firm.
He doesn't kick back like once the spring planting is done and be like, well, I don't really have to do anything until autumn. Like it's, he's got stuff to do. He's got to prepare for the autumn.
Yeah.
Right. If he doesn't do anything, then the barn leaks or there's cracks for rats to come through and eat half of his food. And he's not going to be prepared. It's the same thing as the virgins that are ready for the bridegroom with their lamps, and
it's the standing firm part that it talks about there.
It's being ready for the Lord's coming.
Yeah. So we're called to that too. So that kind of leads us into the next section. Those are the three sections, that we had about the natural parts of the saying that they're seasonal plants and they have to be planted on schedule. Once you plant them, you have to trust God to bring the produce. And then this last one is you have to be productive after you plant while you're waiting. You have good things to do, like build your house and standing firm, right? So those are the literal, planting crops lessons that are in that, but and building houses lessons. But there's also a figurative lesson here too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to go back and cover these same 3 points, but talk about the figurative theological kind of aspects of them. So going back to Ecclesiastes in chapter 11, verse 4, it says, "Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap."
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
think,
sorry.
no, I was just gonna say, like, that this first one on the figurative side is it's always the right time to sow good works,
Mhm.
and this first one's kind of a naturalistic idea too in Ecclesiastes. But if you think of it in terms of your good works, you should always be ready to do good works. Don't sit around waiting for the perfect moment.
Right. I think, especially when you combine this with like what we just read in James, where he's talking about being ready for the Lord to come. And maybe this is not what you thought of when you read it, but um, it makes me think of all of these like false end times predictions and things.
Hmm.
Like, on the one hand, yes, we're looking forward to Christ's return, but if you're constantly looking for signs and thinking, oh, it's now, like, you have all these stories of people who like sold their house and
Yeah.
sold everything to get ready because they were told by some teacher, you gotta like get rid of all your earthly possessions. It's coming now.
Hmm.
We just had one of these not so long ago. A pretty widespread and like well known one. I think it was September 23rd or something like that. All these people were expecting that to be the second coming, and then it wasn't. Surprise. and I don't know either. There's always an excuse. It's usually, oh, I just got the prediction wrong, and it's probably set for a little bit later, a few months later, and or it's one of those quiet comings, which is explicitly uh, we're told won't happen. But
Or the Mayan calendar could run out at any time.
yeah, yeah,
And it has to be because it's the end of time coming, because the Mayans didn't just like have the calendar set up for a few centuries and then like say, we'll fix it later.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, wait, we're dead. So we can't change it now. But anyway.
yeah. Like the Christian church had to fix the Roman calendar because it was getting everything off. So that. Anyway, it makes me think of that because you have people who are duped into that and just get rid of their possessions. But yeah, I think the more figurative lesson there, like you're saying, is that it's always the right time to do it. Kind of like Job, like
Yeah.
like anyone can always pursue righteousness, pursue God. And if you're just waiting for the conditions to be exactly right, it's like, good luck with that.
Yeah, because Job's friends, they were like, no, this isn't the right time for you to be a good person. He's like, yeah, what are you talking about? It's
Yeah.
always the right time. They're like, not you. No, and he was so frustrated. We've covered that a lot. But it's sort of what's spoken to in Galatians 6, verses 7 and 8, if you want to read that.
Yeah. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Whoever sows to please their flesh, from the flesh will reap destruction. Whoever sows to please the Spirit, from the Spirit will reap eternal life.
Yeah, I mean, so the idea there, being that you're gonna reap what you sow, and if you don't sow, you're not gonna reap anything. So you have to be about that. I think that's kind of what Job was saying, was like, why are you trying to stop me from investing in my future? It's like, because you have no future. He's like, yeah, I've got God.
Now with that attitude, I don't.
So, yeah, but and he wasn't investing in his flesh. His flesh was basically, rotting and destroyed right on his own, skeleton.
Yeah.
And yet he's still trying to find a way to plant good seed for the future. And so that's the kind of attitude we need to have, is not, investing in ourselves, but investing in God's kingdom, because that's where the real future is.
Mm-hmm. And again, I think like just such a practical application of that, a day-to-day application, whoever sows to please the flesh versus whoever sows to please the Spirit, it's just, learning some spiritual discipline and some self-denial.
Yeah.
You don't need the junk food. You don't need the, alcohol or pornography or whatever the thing is that is very pleasing to you in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then this idea of seasonal, we talked about the seasonal planting. I mean, this one here, like because there was a natural order to things. This one here, the natural order is if you sow to your flesh, you're going to destroy yourself, right? The destruction.
Mhm.
And if you sow to the spirit, you're going to reap eternal life.
If you're investing in, like, like we said earlier, and I was joking, I'm going to live forever. If that's what you're investing in is this life, you're guaranteed to have a failed investment.
Yeah.
Like, again, everybody has to acknowledge, yeah, you're going to die. Like, I remember I asked somebody one time, because I'm this kind of person. It's probably very annoying, but I like to see what people are thinking or make them think. I just asked somebody, like, what do you think the meaning of life is? And they said, I guess to live. And I was like, so we're all doomed to fail then. It's like that can't be the goal.
So that's the first one. There's a natural order to doing the right thing, right? And so you do the right thing, and you'll reap the benefits of it. The second one is similar to what we talked about the crops, that God will bring the increase to those who listen to him and trust him. Okay, so a good example of that's Matthew 13, verse 23. And this is at the conclusion of the parable of the sower. And so the way that it closes in the book of Matthew says, but the seed falling on good soil refers to someone who hears the word and understands it. This is the one who produces a crop yielding 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. So again, it's just like the passage we saw in Genesis 26 with Isaac. If you're sowing, if you're letting the word that reaches you plant in your heart, right, and grow, then you're going to get that return.
Mm-hmm. And building off of that idea, Paul says in 2 Corinthians 9, 6 through 8, remember this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will reap generously. Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to bless you abundantly, so that in all things, at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work.
So this makes me think of, especially coming right after the parable of the sower, sometimes when I'm teaching about the parable of the sower, people will comment, this guy's a terrible farmer. Like, he's throwing the seed on a path, he's throwing it on rocks, like, put it on the soil that you tilled, right? But I mean,
well, that's why a lot of people have said that it should be called the parable of the soils.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, that would kind of ruin the parable, because Jesus was trying to talk about the soils that they land on. You got to throw it out on the path. You got to throw it on the rocks, like in the weeds. You got to get it all spread around, or a story doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, though, it matches better with this, where Paul's talking about be generous as you sow. Like, throw it everywhere. It's like, who cares where it lands?
Yeah.
It's kind of matches along with the parable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that's the first two. Now we got the third one, just like we looked at before. Be productive while you wait. Build the household of God. Okay, that's what we should be doing now. So in Galatians 6, 9, and 10, which comes right after the earlier passages we read, verses 7 and 8, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers. So while we're waiting, right, we're supposed to be being good to everybody. Like on our last episode where we talked about, being honest, and that's planting a kiss even on people we don't necessarily like,
Mm-hmm.
but it blesses everyone when you tell the truth. And like this is saying the same thing, like do good to all people. Like let your rain fall on everybody, let your sun shine on everybody, like God does, and you will see the household of God grow. That's building that house.
Yeah, and Peter makes that analogy even more clear in 1 Peter 2, 4 through 5. As you come to him, the living stone, rejected by humans but chosen by God and precious to him, you also, like living stones, are being built into a spiritual house to be a holy priesthood, offering spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through Jesus Christ. So I mean, now each of us are being compared to stones, being built into the house.
Yeah, yeah. And that idea of spiritual sacrifices, we were just talking about whether you sow to the spirit or sow to the flesh. But this idea of spiritual sacrifices, where do they come from? Like what kinds of produce did you sacrifice to God in the Old Testament? That was coming from the fields and coming from
From the flocks.
from the flocks, and now you're bringing your harvest from your good works. As your sacrifice.
Well, and I think it's really important to see the incarnational reality here. Like Christ is a living stone, we are living stones, and the church, which is the spiritual house here that he's talking about, that's the house of God. Like you're saying, we got to build the household of God. Like the farmer can work on the house while the crops grow. You have to do that in person. Like you have to be in actual relationship and in community with these people. And I think that is something we're in danger of today with all the technology, and just the attitude that people have. I've spoken to people who say, yeah, I think I'm a Christian. I believe in God and Jesus and whatever, but I just don't see the point of church. It's like this just doesn't work. This can't work if we're not in relationship, if we're not actually going there. I mean, that's part of what Paul's talking about in giving generously, right? That would include your time and your presence of actually showing up.
Well, a lot of people are talking about AI this and AI that, and it's going to start doing all of our jobs.
They're already messing with church services. Like they've had an AI Charlie Kirk address churches. They've had AI pastors or pastors have AIs write their sermons for them.
Yeah. That's not what I was going to say. I was going to say, like, if AI replaced all of our jobs, and people are like, what are we going to do? Well, I mean, if we still have all the same productivity and we don't have to work, we could spend more time helping people.
Yeah. No, we're definitely going to, find more games and porn and stuff to do. Yeah.
All right. So again, just like we saw in the natural side of things, we had these 3 points that come from that proverb, right? The first one was, it's always the right time to sow good works. The second one is that God's going to bring the increase to those of us who listen to him and trust in him. And the third one was that we have to be productive while we wait. Now that the seed of Christ was planted and the church is growing from that, right? We have to be part of that growth. We have to be part of building the household of God. And then finally, I just want to say, listen to what Peter says later in the chapter, in 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 9 and 10. It says, but you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. Once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. And I think
it's like when he talks about calling us out of the darkness, that's like we were talking earlier about the seed being planted, buried in the ground. And Jesus makes that explicit analogy to himself, saying that he's going to die and be buried to rise again. And now Peter's saying that applies to us as well, that we're called out of darkness, out of death.
Yep. Yeah, just like a seed growing out of the soil, finding the warmth of the sun, growing toward the warmth of the sun, and that's us. And so God offered his mercy, and when you receive that, right, now you declare his praise, it says. So that's really cool. That's those good works that are the crop that's being produced in our lives, and it's reaching other people, as well, because they are exposed to the sunlight of God. When, as Jesus says, we're the light of the world. When we go out and shine that light on other people, then they are drawn to it as well. So, really good stuff out of the book of Proverbs, and the more sayings of the wise.
Yeah, only 2 more to go, I think.
Yep.
And then that's it. There's no extra ones. That is all the wisdom ever.
We've already announced that we're going to go to the life of Christ after that, so be ready for that. So the wise words takeaway from this bonus wise words saying is always sow in the proper season, and God will bring the increase. So,
Yeah. And I mean, where could you find a group of people who want to plant God's word? Or maybe where could you find a group of people who are living stones being built into his household?
let me think.
I don't know how you could possibly have guessed along the way here.
At a church?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we always encourage everybody to find a family, a church family to participate with. And as Caleb was talking about, we don't spend enough time with people investing in other people, and we don't need to play any more video games.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we don't. And it's not enough to just watch the service on YouTube or whatever.
Right.
And those services are maybe a blessing to some people if they just can't make it one day, they're sick, or for elderly who are shut-ins or something. But it seems like there are a lot of people who treat it as more and more of a remote thing. Or you have like these mega churches who have one pastor but like 12 locations, so his sermon is just like broadcast to all of them, and there's nobody even there leading them in that specific building. Like, the way that some of this stuff is being implemented seems like we ought to walk it back and be more personal.
I can tell you, as an elder, one of the biggest problems at my church is, where's the youth group? I mean, if the parents aren't coming, like, they're not bringing the kids, right? The kids aren't growing up in Bible class. They're not ending up in youth group. When they go to high school, they don't have a group of kids that, have a God orientation around them. And, so it's hard to, if you don't take your kids to a family, a church family, and they don't become a part of that larger community, they don't have that in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And that cuts off that Shema, that we've been talking about, where they're not seeing the kids aren't seeing the parents go to church. The kids aren't with other kids that go to church. The kids aren't developing the next generation of the church because they're not at church.
And it's in the home too. Like, what do you do in your home?
Yes.
Is it just everyone sitting around on their phone watching a different show, maybe in the same room? Like, is there no interaction? Because then when you read the Bible and there's all this language about family and household, blah, 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 it's like, okay, well, my family and household is totally disconnected. So I guess that's what church is.
Yeah.
Like, it's got to encompass our whole lives as Christians.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, that was kind of a downer way to end it.
Well, I mean, I will say at my church, we're having a kind of a revival in the youth group on Wednesday nights. There's a lot of kids coming in the middle of the week, so it's really good.
Yeah, but that is kind of the point, is, like we've said, the takeaway, always sow and God will bring the increase.
Yeah.
So, or like with Job, like any time or any condition, you can start seeking God. So, it doesn't do you any good to sit around like, it's all falling apart. So, invest in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, he's Caleb and I'm Timothy, and thank you for listening to Bible Discussions on Biblocus, where the Bible intersects with your life. Please consider subscribing to our channel to help support our efforts. All scripture quotations, unless otherwise indicated, are taken from the Holy Bible, New International Version, NIV, copyright by Biblica, Inc., used by permission of Zondervan, all rights reserved. Biblocus is a registered trademark. This program is copyright 2025 by Timothy Klingerman. God bless all of you.